Robert Pattinson played Edward Cullen like a clinical study in depression. The studio wanted a romantic teenage heartthrob. Pattinson read the source material and concluded that a 108-year-old immortal who wants to consume his girlfriend is a monster in agony, not a prince. He highlighted every grimace in the book. He refused to smile. When producers threatened to fire him if he didn't lighten up, he compromised minimally on screen, but spent the entire press tour dismantling the franchise's logic. He essentially used a global phenomenon to fund his future indie career, playing the corporate game while actively rebelling against the character's core appeal. Alec Guinness engineered his own death in Star Wars. The architectural foundation of Obi-Wan Kenobi's sacrifice on the Death Star wasn't just George Lucas's myth-making. It was Alec Guinness wanting out. He viewed the dialogue as fairy tale rubbish. He found the production chaotic and the lines undeliverable for a classically trained Shakespearean actor. He convinced Lucas that killing Kenobi would make the character stronger, a brilliant piece of script manipulation that permanently elevated the film's stakes while legally freeing Guinness from having to speak the dialogue in the sequels. He secured a massive percentage of the gross, became incredibly wealthy, and spent the rest of his life throwing away fan mail. Harrison Ford spent 30 years trying to murder Han Solo. In Return of the Jedi, Ford argued aggressively that Han should die. His reasoning was structural. Han had no force powers, no grand political destiny, and his character arc was completed the moment he returned to help Luke in the first movie. Ford believed the only remaining utility for the smuggler was emotional weight. A sacrifice to prove the Empire was a genuine threat. George Lucas refused because dead heroes don't sell toys. Ford finally got his wish in The Force Awakens. The bridge scene with Kylo Ren wasn't just a dramatic passing of the torch. It was an actor finalizing a 3-decade contract negotiation to permanently close the door on a character he felt he had outgrown. Sean Connery grew to actively despise James Bond. He didn't just dislike the grueling schedule. He hated the cultural projection. Connery was a working-class Scottish actor who built a rugged, diverse career, but Bond trapped him in a cage of sophisticated British imperialism. The public stopped seeing Connery and only saw the tuxedo. By the time he filmed You Only Live Twice, the resentment was visible on screen. He demanded more money, hated the producers, and gave interviews stating he would like to kill the character. The tragedy of Connery's early career was that his greatest success became a prison of typesing that took him 2 decades to escape. Channing Tatum actively begged to be killed in G.I. Joe: Retaliation. He was forced into the first movie under a 3-picture deal he signed early in his career. When the studio invoked the contract, he had no legal escape. He hated the script, didn't want the role, and felt it was a compromised cash grab. So when the sequel was greenlit, Tatum agreed to return on one non-negotiable condition: Duke had to die in the first act. The opening minutes of Retaliation feature the franchise's lead character being abruptly wiped out in an airstrike. That wasn't a bold narrative choice to subvert expectations. That was an actor finding a contractual loophole to execute his own character. George Clooney treats Batman and Robin not as a movie but as a public apology tour. The Schumacher film fundamentally misunderstood the psychology of Bruce Wayne, replacing trauma with neon commercialism. Clooney understood this almost immediately. He realized he wasn't playing a character. He was wearing a toy commercial. The rubber nipple suit, the ice puns, the credit card, he recognized it was career poison while filming it. Instead of defending it, Clooney weaponized self-deprecation. For 20 years, he has systematically mocked his own performance, refunded fans who tell him they bought a ticket, and used the failure as a definitive pivot point. He hated the role so much that he decided to never work strictly for a paycheck again. Ryan Reynolds turned Green Lantern into a permanent punchline. The production was a masterclass in studio interference. No finished script, a completely CGI suit, and a director who didn't want Reynolds for the part. Reynolds recognized the film was failing while they were still shooting it. His defense mechanism was total detachment. When he eventually produced Deadpool, he used the Green Lantern failure as canonical material. He literally shoots a fictional version of himself in the head to prevent the movie from being made. He didn't just hate the role, he monetized his hatred of it, turning a catastrophic studio failure into a foundational piece of a much more successful character's marketing strategy. Daniel Craig physically broke himself playing James Bond, and his resentment bled into the press. After finishing Spectre, Craig famously said he would rather slash his wrists than play the character again. That wasn't a metaphor for creative exhaustion, it was the reality of a broken body. Craig approached Bond with brutal physicality, resulting in torn shoulder muscles, ruptured calf muscles, and a blown knee. The pristine image of the invincible spy was built on an actor enduring chronic, agonizing pain. He hated the physical toll and the isolation of the character. His ultimate condition for returning in No Time to Die was unprecedented. Bond had to die. Like Ford and Guinness, Craig forced the studio to break its own mythology just so he could finally be free. If you enjoyed this, I post movie content a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.